Hello, welcome to Tarot with Tanya. This is 7 cards for 7 days, and we are looking at the week of Monday, February 5th through Sunday, February 11th. And welcome to all who are returning and anyone who's new. Thank you so much for stopping by. And I'll give you a little bit of the astrology for the week, and then we will look at the cards and end with an oracle card. So on Monday, we have Mercury conjunct Pluto. So it's actually a day that favors negotiations, being cooperative, gives us an ability to x-ray situations. So you've got the Mercury, the communicator, the one interested in ideas, information, and so forth, and then Pluto, the great transformer. So that's where, you're able to look deeply through that Pluto energy into situations. On Wednesday, we get Venus trine Uranus, and conjunctions are where, of course, they're touching each other and each other's orb. And when we get the trines, they're making an aspect that astrologers consider a pretty pleasant one that's supportive. So we also that day on Wednesday have Mars sextile Neptune, which is another good easier kind of aspect. So that makes it a good day to remain independent. That would be that Venus, our connections, our love relationships, of all kinds. They don't have to be just romantic, social connections, things like that. And then that independent is Uranus, which rules Aquarius. So again, a good day to remain independent, to give others a lot of space and freedom. We could also have a very vivid imagination, energy behind that, because you've got that Mars making a positive aspect to Neptune, which is very important for musicians, artists, mystics, things like that. So the creativity is enhanced, and there could be some unusual experiences that day. You've got Uranus and Neptune, those very far out planets that represent the future and the depths for us, the psychic depths and creative depths. Then on Thursday, the Sun is square Uranus. Now squares are typically more tense. They can create that kind of tension. So on this aspect, we might have a person or a situation from the past resurface suddenly. There could be sudden changes in general, and also innovative solutions. So, with the Sun, that's our personality, that's the illumination of something. And then when you have a Uranus, I mentioned before, because we've got that aspect on Wednesday as well with Venus, and now it's the Sun. So we have again that potential for the strange, which Uranus can represent, the lightning bolt, the sudden. So that could happen, things like that could happen on Thursday. By the time we get to Saturday, now we have another square, and this time it's Mercury squaring Jupiter. So we talked about Mercury as the planet of ideas, communication, movement, travel. And then Jupiter is the great gas giant. It's benevolent. It makes us all want to expand and feel better. So when we have these squared, we don't want to promise what we can't deliver. And beware of other people's promises and extravagances as well. And in general, it's a good day to avoid extremes and just to try to stay moderate. So I hope that helps you all. And with all of this, as I go into the cards, and the astrology, take what resonates for you. Leave the rest behind. It's a reading for the general collective, and some things might be where your energy is lining up, others might not. So trust yourself on that. I am using the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and boy, this reading really jumps out in terms of majors. We have 4 majors here. That's a lot for 7 cards. And we begin with the Sun on Monday, February 5th. So, obviously the sun is a huge dominant energy in this card. You have the kind of sort of say royal infant, it can be the inner child. The magical child is really more what I think it is. Riding on the horse, having the sunflowers in the background. It's number 19 in the majors of the tarot, which reduces to a 1. Anytime you add 9, it's going to take it back to what it was. So 1 and 9, 1. And so there's an initiatory energy with that as well. So expansive, happy, really good energy, maybe shining the light on a situation on Monday. On Tuesday, we continue with the majors, and this time we move to Temperance. So this is the number 14 card in the majors, so it occurs before the sun does. And obviously you see a figure here, and it's suggested that there's liquid pouring back and forth. And this card often is about the mastery of the elements, which really symbolizes within. Are we in balance? Are we able to handle strong energies that might come our way? Can we be temperate in our lives, not go to extremes, or maybe experiment with those so we find that temperate middle? So that's our Tuesday. So big expansion on Monday, kind of figuring how to be temperate and powerful at the same time, because it is a major card. On Tuesday. And then Wednesday, the majors continue, and this time with Judgment. So I just had a conversation with someone dear to me this morning about this idea of judgment and how it's, I guess, a double-edged sword would be one way to put it. We need to have good judgment. On the other hand, we don't want to be judgmental. So here, of course, is a suggestion of Resurrection Day. You have looks like a family. The trumpets are blown, and people rise up. So what is arising again in oneself? What can be seen perhaps as a rebirth? And I suspect it would be more within, more spiritual, perhaps more moral, more to do with your code of conduct, things like that. Or you might find people being judgmental towards you, or yourself being judgmental toward yourself or someone else. And generally I think that's a good moment when we find ourselves in that place. What is it that we're really worried about? We can ask ourselves, is there something in me that I don't like, or I'm fearing, or I'm condemning? And when we get to the Oracle card, there are just magical ways I feel like that addresses some of the cards that came up this week. So we'll talk more about that. But anyway, that's our Wednesday. By Thursday, we move into minors. So we have a couple of minors this week, and one of them is the 8 of discs or pentacles, an earth energy. 8 is connected to the strength card, to being able to kind of deal with one's own shadow, those inner parts that we frown upon and often don't even like to admit that exist. We tend to be able to see them in others much more easily than we see them within ourselves. So that kind of goes back to that judgment thing. Are we really judging ourselves when we find ourselves judging another? So this is also mastery of some kind of art, some kind of work. It tends to be, because it's an earth card, a disc, it tends to be something in the physical realm. So it might be a great day to practice some skills, to give yourself some credit for the work you do. Or work on that work that day. Devote yourself to something that really matters to you, maybe something crafting. Friday, that's just an interesting card. We had this card last week as well. So there's shedding going on. I mean, in the Western calendar, of course, we observe January 1st as the new year, but I believe I've mentioned before, not everybody sees it that way. Obviously, we have the Chinese New Year, which is different. That comes later based on the lunar calendar. Some see, especially in the astrological world, as spring being more, the vernal equinox being more the beginning. So I bring it up because there are transformations, there are deaths that are happening, and not literal deaths, but transformational deaths. How are we changing? What are we letting go? What do we need to shed to move things forward? So it can be a very subtle internal process. It might be something more outward, like cleaning out a closet. That makes you feel really good. It is a major card, so that will have some significance to it, even if it's a small act. When our Saturday rolls around, we're to that second minor that we have this week, and our first one was, I mentioned a disc and earth energy. And that's considered a feminine energy. The fire, belongs to the Wands card, is considered a masculine energy. So we've shifted in that sense, and we're at a 3. All the 3s connect back to the Empress. So there's a lot of creativity, a lot of bounty here. Doing something that, and perhaps with, other people, being in some kind of a small group. Creating something, using your instincts together. There's often a suggestion around this card of waiting for one ship to come in. So, it's interesting that the back is turned to us. 2 staffs are planted, or 2 wands. And then our figure, perhaps male, perhaps female, holds on to that third one. So there's a way to me that feels like a bit of a protected space. A triangle is an incredibly adaptable form. You can set up a tripod about anywhere, make those adjustments. So there's something very fluid and flexible about the 3s. And again, in this very creative and a fiery kind of energy to that creativity on Saturday. So I had mentioned the Temperance card, I believe. Maybe I didn't in terms of its numerology. It is a 14, which makes it a 5. A 1 and a 4 equal 5. So that energy gets echoed in this 5. So all of these would ultimately connect back to the Hierophant, which is the first 5 in the majors. It's almost like the majors are overseers in a sense, or there's an energy connection in the minors of the same numerology. And so here we have that connection to Temperance, that connection to the Hierophant, our inner spiritual teacher, our inner judge, our inner wisdom, things like that. Here is one of the challenges that comes with the 4 minors. The swords, the cups, the wands, and here the discs or pentacles. And so you see 2 figures, they're suffering. One's on crutches, the other one, bending forward. It's kind of like not seeing, as they go by this beautiful stained glass window, what might really be available. So it can be a feeling of scarcity, of being left out of bounty in some way, of not having enough. In the Thoth deck, this card is labeled worry. And that's where we take ourselves out of the present, and that's where we have our power, the only place we have power, and put ourselves into a situation where we're either, thinking, well, this happened in the past, so it can happen again, or what's going to happen in my future, I'm really worried about that, and not being inside that sacred space of the present moment, the self. So they're missing that in a sense. Now, how can you turn this to a positive? Well, look at the inner wisdom. What programming perhaps is connected, maybe to religion that you've received, maybe a kind of programming from family of not being confident in, residing in the moment where you're okay, the next moment, but somehow projecting out that things are not okay. So just know that that's an illusion. That's absolutely an illusion, and that there's always something good to be found in the situation at hand. So I hope that helps. I always hope it helps. And then we'll finish with our oracle card from Doreen Virtue's Crystal Angels. And what came up was topaz today. So let me give you a visual on the card. And, you know, you might think like I did right away. Whoops, a lot of glare there. That's like, well, wait a minute, topazes are a different color. And, you know, it actually says in the booklet that, yes, used to be all were considered sort of that goldish color, but actually other colors of topaz do exist, which sort of shows here. And just let me share what the book says. This is a beautiful sign from your guardian angels who love you so much and want to help you reach the next positive level in your health and happiness. They can see that you are being blocked and held back by repressed anger and resentment. And, you know, I mentioned that I thought this connected perhaps with the Judgment card. Are you being judgmental of the self, judging another? Are you feeling some kind of a scarcity and blaming yourself or another for that? And maybe there does need to be some kind of forgiveness. Most likely you already know what needs to be released, but perhaps you've had difficulty letting it go. So forgiveness isn't condoning, accepting, or excusing someone's behavior. It means an unwillingness to harm yourself anymore. You don't have to like the other person. You don't have to hang out with them. You simply need to agree to release their energy from your psyche. So, you know, there's the current expression of, you know, don't let them live in your head rent-free. And yeah, it's cliche and so forth at this point, but there's truth to it. And, you know, that's where we can get into obsessive thoughts and things like that. And meditating can be very helpful on this, maybe finding some kind of a mantra, which means, you know, a healing phrase that you repeat again and again, whatever feels right for you. Find that space where you can get into your real peace in your center and let some of this go. So the card could refer to forgiving yourself for actions that you regret. Self-blame is as toxic as blaming others. The only thing valuable about reflecting on the past is learning from it, not holding on to shame or guilt. Your guardian angels remind you that harboring anger hurts only you, not the other person. Repressed resentment is toxic to your physical, your emotional, and your financial health. You know, again, that's where it could be connected back to that 5 of discs. All it takes is a little willingness to forgive, and Spirit and the angels will help you do all the rest of the work. So, beloveds, I'm wishing you a beautiful week, this first full week in February. And please, if you like the video, give it a like and consider sharing and subscribing if you haven't already. And if you're interested in a reading for yourself, you're just curious, please let me know, reach out. There'll be information in the description box below and at the end of this video. So wish you the best. See you next week.